What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your first time here. Today we're going to be going over same thing I did the last 2 days, only this time for sniper supports. So it's going to be a really in-depth dive into season 6 sniper support weapons and which ones come out on top. As always, if you like the content, be sure to drop a sub, a like, and a comment to help us out with the algorithm and help the website stay up to date and funded. But let's jump into it, and we will talk about what I think are the best sniper supports for season 6. Alright, so again, this has been added to that same Google Sheet that I've been sharing in my previous 2 videos. There's now 3 tabs: primary weapons, SMGs, and sniper support. Today we're going to be going over the sniper support and talking about how I weighted things and the different factors that I think are important for a sniper support weapon. So I guess we'll just start with that. The recoil rank, obviously recoil is very important, so I kind of went through and ranked these for myself. This is a row that when you make a copy of this sheet, if you want to see how your rankings would come out, you need to go test the recoil on these guns and see which one feels like it's the most accurate to you. Just take some shots while you're moving, things like that. And just generally you get a feel for how accurate you are with them, because this is a very subjective thing. Different recoil patterns can feel good to different people. This is just how my rankings come out. So the next column is aim, walk, sway. So that is like how much the gun sways back and forth as you're either strafing or moving forward or backward. And I will show you a visual representation of that now. All right, so this aim, walking, sway thing is something that Cold War guns struggle with a lot more than Modern Warfare guns. So I've built the AK-545 and the XM4 here so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to walk straight at a target while I'm ADS, first with the AK and then with the XM4. So I'll look right at the top of this this tower here. If I walk forward with the AK, you can see it doesn't wobble very much at all. It stays very close to just being on target. Whereas if I switch to the XM4, there's a bunch of like sway back and forth, and the Cold War AK is even worse with this. And when you're strafing and trying to hit shots and it's wobbling this much, it can make it very difficult to stay on target compared to a Modern Warfare gun. So that's just something that's always bothered me about the Cold War guns. You can get used to it and still hit your shots, but it takes a lot of practice and time to get used to it. So that's something that I factor in for, especially like the the longer range engagements, because I'm almost never sitting still when I'm shooting. So that really does affect my accuracy at longer ranges, because that wobble back and forth when you're 40 meters away, your target's pretty small. So if you're wobbling back and forth, 2 body widths the size of the person at 40 meters, you're going to miss some shots because of that. So that's something I wanted to factor into this, because I think it's really important for the accuracy of these guns. I'm going to start just going over these at the same time that I talk about what they mean. So recoil rank is obviously just my own recoil rank. So what came out on top for me was the Bullfrog XM4 and AK-47 545, followed by the PPSH and Cold War AK, which are both very accurate as well for me. MP7, with the way I've built it, has no stock, but it's still pretty accurate because it also has an operator grip. Ram 7 just has that weird up to the left recoil that I've always had trouble controlling. So that's why it came fourth, and then the Odin is last because the Odin's crazy. I just kind of put that on here because it's funny. Also, it has fantastic TTKs, but yeah, that's how my recoil came out. Aim, walking, sway, again, Cold War AK is the worst for sure, followed by the XM4. And then the Modern Warfare guns are all pretty good. Not a whole lot of issue there. And then the Cold War SMGs are also pretty good. So that's why they're all down towards the 1, whereas the Cold War AK and XM4 are all up at the higher numbers. All right, so for a sniper support, I feel like there's a lot of engagements that are like less than 20 meters, but then there's also a lot of engagements that are 20 to 40 meters, and I feel like those are both important. So that's why I split the TTK up into 2 separate areas. Again, these were all calculated using my advanced TTK calculator with like 11% headshot, 7% neck shot, 35% chest shot, 35% extremity shot, and the rest on stomach. So those are accurate percentages that I've gotten from Black Ops Cold War from surveying people. Obviously it's not perfect, but it's the best we can do. But what it does is it allows you to see different trends in TTKs that you wouldn't normally see if you just looked at chest or you just looked at stomach. A lot of people talk about like reducing the TTK by getting all chest shots and then 1 headshot, mixing 1 headshot in, increase it or reduces the TTK. I don't think that's a good method at all. I much prefer to plug in these percentages into my calculator and have it spit out a real TTK rather than this hypothetical situation that's literally never going to happen. Like nobody hits 100% chest shots and then mixes in 1 headshot. That happens almost never, I'm sure. Obviously I can't prove that, but looking at shot location percentages from Black Ops Cold War, people are hitting all over the body, which I think is pretty standard. Even the good players are not going to be hitting all chest and head. So I feel like doing that kind of analysis it's okay. It's something to think about, but overall, my weighted TTK and DPS calculator, I think is much more reliable and realistic than doing things like that. So with that in mind, the AK545 and the MP7 came out on top in terms of TTK for less than 20 meters. This is with including 50% ADS time. Again, that's just because I wanted to weight this somewhat with ADS, because think of the engagements that actually matter. The engagements that you could die in are usually engagements where you both see each other at roughly the same time. So in those situations, if they don't see you first, if you see them first, ADS isn't that important. But also, you're probably not going to lose that fight because you're going to be shooting first, and TTKs are really low in Warzone. So in situations that you could die, that are high potential for losing the fight, you need to include that ADS time because you have to ADS in most of those fights. So I included some of it just to weight it towards that. And that's why the MP7 came out on top, because it has really good ADS times with this build. AK545 also has really good TTKs with decent ADS times with my build. Odin has great TTKs everywhere and ridiculously long range. That's why it's in second. And then the XM4, Ram 7, PPSH, and Cold War AK all have good TTKs. The XM4 and Cold War AK just have longer ADS times because they're ARs. So that's how they kind of end up balanced with the PPSH, even though the PPSH actually has, a little bit worse TTKs normally. And then the Bullfrog is actually the worst by quite a bit in that first 20 meter range. Looking at the 20 to 40 meter range, Odin wins. Obviously, Odin doesn't even have a drop off until 40 plus meters with the attachments I've got on it. XM4 in second, Ram 7, Cold War AK in third, and then the SMGs are all going to fall back towards the end just because they're SMGs. So they have a little bit worse TTKs out there. I spent a lot of time trying to get the final rankings to come out correctly, and I just could not do it. I couldn't figure out what was going wrong, and then I was realizing that all the ARs were doing worse than they should. And I think that's because I wasn't including bullet velocity. I forgot to put bullet velocity in the weighting. So I added bullet velocity to this and kind of ranked them how they fit. So obviously Odin has really good bullet velocity. The ARs all have really good bullet velocity. And then the SMGs all have pretty bad bullet velocity. So when I included this, the rankings just, boom, looked great almost immediately. So I think this is really important to include in your decision-making process, because out towards like 40 meters, bullet velocity can be a pretty big deal in hitting a moving target. Fire rate, not very important, but I included it. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's weighted really low. Damage per mag, again, this is very important based on the game mode, so I've got different rankings for each game mode. I also included reload time this time because a lot of these builds rely on sleight of hand. So MP7, I have sleight of hand. The AK545, I have sleight of hand. Odin, sleight of hand. So those have the best reload times on this this scaling factor. And then they're scaled, but not quite as strong as damage per mag, because sleight of hand, you don't want to have to reload, because that's still time you can't fire, but it is still something to consider, and you can get away with sleight of hand in some situations. Sprint speed, pretty self-explanatory, just measuring how fast these things are for sprint speed. PPSH comes out on top, followed by the XM4 and the Bullfrog, followed by the Cold War AK and the MP7. And then in last place are the Modern Warfare ARs. Like, they're dramatically worse than the Cold War SMGs and the MP7. So that's why I gave them 7s instead of just like 4. I ranked them a lot worse because they're dramatically slower. ADS movement speed comes out very similarly. PPSH is on top again, always in mobility, and it's the only thing that beats the PPSH in mobility is the OTS. MP7, XM4, Bullfrog all come out with great ADS movement speeds. Cold War AK also has great ADS movement speed. The Ram 7's okay, but it's still quite a bit slower than the Cold War AK. And then the Modern Warfare AK and the Odin are terrible in terms of ADS movement speed. ADS times, these are kind of factored into the TTK, like I said, but it's also good to just think about them in general for all other situations. So MP7 that I've built here has fantastic ADS times. PPSH has very good ADS times. Ram 7 has good ADS times. Odin actually comes out with good ADS times, believe it or not, with the build that I have. Again, I included that kind of as a meme, but it's a pretty fun gun to use, actually. It's not one of the best, but it's just fun. Coming in last would be like the XM4 and the Cold War AK. They're around 300 milliseconds with my build. It's not bad. It's only weighted at 1, so it doesn't affect the end result that much in terms of how these things come out, because they're still not that bad. Like 300 milliseconds is not that long, so it's still decent. Sprint to fire times, important but not crazy important for sniper support. They have there's basically like 3 different levels of sprint to fire in these builds. So there's the SMGs, the ARs, and the ARs with like 5mm laser and stippled grip tape to reduce that sprint to fire time. So with the builds, the Odin and the AK-545 do not have the best sprint to fire times because they both only have stippled grip tape and they have AR base sprint to fire times, so those aren't great. And then the ARs with the 5mm, or in the case of Cold War guns, the Raider stock, they come out in second place, and then obviously SMGs are going to be first, and the builds are all very similar here for that stuff. So that's how they came out. Now let's go talk about the end result in terms of rankings. All right, so same as before, I've got these ranked based on scaling factors for all of those, and basically just adding them up and multiplying them each by a scaling factor. I've got it separated per game mode, so Iron Trials, Quads, Trios, Duos, Solos. Iron Trials, as you would expect, Cold War AK, PPSH, XM4, and Bullfrog come out on top. Damage per mag is huge in this mode. All 4 of those guns have great damage per mag. PPSH is just a fantastic all-around sniper support right now. I've made videos on it. I think it's my personal favorite sniper support just because of how versatile it is. It's good in every situation. XM4 is also fantastic. So obviously Iron Trials, XM4, and PPSH came out on top. For quads, again, XM4, PPSH came out on top. PPSH edged out the XM4 by a little bit in quads, followed by the Cold War AK. So really this ranking system came out pretty good. These are the top three guns in my opinion for sniper support for sure, are the PPSH, XM4, and Cold War AK for anything above like duos. So trios, quads, Iron Trials, I think those are the 3 standout sniper supports. Try all 3 of them, see which one you like. I've got all the recommended builds in this spreadsheet, so you can come check them out. I'm not really going to cover them. I'll go look at it in a second, so you can pause the video if you don't want to actually open the spreadsheet. But and then let's go down to like solos and duos. So interesting things happen here as damage per mag doesn't matter anymore. This MP7 build that I have comes out almost on top. So the MP7 comes down to 35 points, which is the lower the better. So 35 is only 1 point behind the XM4 and 1 point behind the PPSH. So it's very close for solos, and it's also very close for duos. That's because it's just got great mobility. It has good recoil. It has pretty good range. It's just overall, it's a very good gun overall for sniper support. It's just you can't put that 60 round mag on there or it kills the mobility, which would make it not even close to competing anywhere. So that's why I use the sleight of hand with the default 40 round mag. It comes out pretty nice, and it's actually a really good gun for solos, duos, and it fits in trios as well, but just not quite as well. As soon as you start getting trios, quads, and Iron Trials, it's like almost unusable at that damage per mag. But for the lower squad sizes, it's a very good sniper support. All right, quickly gonna go over some guns I didn't include. AK-74U, I just think the PPSH is a better option. The Modern Warfare AUG has great TTKs, but it has low damage per mag with the 30 round mag, or terrible mobility if you put on the 60 round drum mag. So overall, it's actually not terrible for trios, duos, solos, but it's just really tough to use in quads and Iron Trials as like a sniper support. You can use it as an SMG in those modes potentially, but just as a sniper support, you need a little bit more damage per mag because you're going to be missing more shots at range than you would up close. CX9 has really hard to control recoil. If you build it to be able to be as mobile as it should be as an SMG, the recoil is uncontrollable compared to something like the MP7 or the PPSH, so I just didn't include it for that reason. The ISO, again, something like the PPSH is just a lot better than the ISO overall. Milano's just doesn't have good TTKs anymore. All right, the recommended builds are at the bottom of the spreadsheet, again on the sniper support tab. The link to this spreadsheet will be down below. Again, you can just pause the video right now if you want to look at my recommended builds. The one thing I would say about this, you can change the mag attachment based on what game mode you're playing in. Sometimes you might not even need a mag, and then you can put another attachment on there. Usually, if you're not going to use a mag, you're going to replace it with either a mobility attachment or an optic. So that's just my thoughts there. Just use whatever mag makes sense for what game mode you're playing. But yeah, all the recommended builds are in the spreadsheet, linked down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't have anything else to say. I'll see you all in the next one, which I think will be tomorrow, and it'll be based on all of these last 3 videos and giving you the best loadouts I can possibly build.